Hello, everyone, and welcome to ODTUG's online education series. Today's presentation is Oracle Enterprise Manager, 7 Robust Features to Put in Action, presented by Rakesh Nagdev and Jenna Starmer from Dataville. Today's presentation will be recorded and will be available for viewing on the ODTUG website. Please put your questions in the questions box at any time during the presentation. They will be addressed during the Q&A period at the end of the webinar. Welcome, Rakesh and Jenna, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, Veronica. Hello, everyone. And I would like to thank each one of you for taking time out of your busy schedule just to join us and talk about this presentation on Oracle Enterprise Manager 7 Robust Feature to Put in Action. I'm really excited about this webinar, and I pretty much guarantee you by you will definitely learn something new, which will help you to further improve monitoring of your environment using those new features, which I'm going to talk about shortly. This is also another exciting event coming up next year by ODTUG. This event is hosted in Nashville, and it is from June 20th to 24th. This is where you will learn more about the new technologies, innovation, ideas, and tools and technique in IT space, as well as it will give you ample of opportunity for networking. I'm pretty sure that you will have positive and safe conference experience. So please do join us in Nashville next year. This is me. My name is Rakesh Nagdev. I am Senior Oracle Database Administrator. I have over 17 years of experience as an Oracle Database Administrator. I am also Oracle Certified Professional as well as AWS Solution Architect Professional. My core areas of expertise, of course, is Oracle Enterprise Manager. I do a lot of automations. I am into cloud and into pretty much everything related to Oracle database. Just to give you a quick intro about Dataville, we are the largest provider of managed database services with over 700 customers across the globe. We have been in this business for more than 16 years now. We are also advanced year partner with AWS and helping customer with their cloud journey for more than 10 years now. And as you can see here, Dataville delivers pretty much services in all major IT technology, including databases, application. We are into analytics, visualization, integration, as you can see here. So Dataville would like to learn more about organization cloud adoption as well as usage for the different workload. As a part of it, we have launched this survey through third party, and I would like you to participate in this survey by just clicking on this link. The survey should not take more than 5 to 10 minutes, and you could get a chance to win a pair of Tiki Touch speakers, as well as we will also be announcing the grand prize winner who can win $500. So please do take few moments and fill out this survey. And most importantly, Dataville will be making donation to First Book to help child in need. So in a way, if you complete this survey, you are also participating in that donation. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about agenda for today's webinar. I will first talk about the Oracle Enterprise Manager overview. We'll just give you a little bit of overview and history behind this tool. And then we'll see who uses this tool and why most of the organizations choose this tool over other available tools. And then we'll talk about the 7 highlights of 13C Cloud Control. I will go over each and every feature, which I believe it's most useful for anybody or mainly DBA to know about and implement in their environment if they are not already using it. So OEM Oracle Enterprise Manager basically provides centralized monitoring and management platform. Using this tool, you can pretty much monitor your full IT stack. including databases. You can even monitor your virtualization infrastructure, your application, middleware, even non-Oracle targets. So pretty much you can monitor your complete ID infrastructure using this tool. And by default, this tool has a lot of functionalities, which is more than sufficient for most of the organization. But it also provides a lot of other additional functionality uh, with the help of management packs. The packs includes the Oracle diagnostic and tuning packs, or maybe you could actually enable the lifecycle management pack, which help you for the patching of your databases and grid infrastructure, etc. And then you have Oracle configuration management pack, even change management pack is also there. And from the security standpoint, you have Oracle data masking pack, using which you can, mask the data or redact the data from an authorized user. So these packs provide a lot of functionality, but they do come with additional cost. So if you are heavily invested or heavily utilizing those functionality, so enabling pack will pretty much automate that functionality for you. Let's now talk about history of this tool, Oracle Enterprise Manager. So it has a long history. The initial version was released in 2001 as the database control, which has limited functionality, but at the time it was even useful to manage a databases. And then the functionality got extended in 2004, wherein now you can monitor your application server using OEM application server control. But the main major changes were introduced in 2010. That is when Oracle first announced the grid control, which was like centralized tool. It was web-based tool, and you can pretty much monitor anything. And it did come with a lot of out-of-box metric, and it did allow a third party to create their own extension. And most importantly, you can now manage your cluster targets as well. So that was the major change in 2010. And in following year 2011, they introduced Oracle Grid Control 11G, which was more stable and had more functionality. But after that, I mean, Oracle have been doing a lot of innovations. And in 2016, that is when they first announced the cloud control, which was version 12c. And basically it was again centralized tool. You can manage pretty much everything, but they extended the functionality to support the cloud infrastructure, or the target based on the cloud. That is what the main difference was between the grid control and the cloud control. And in the cloud control, the architecture of agent was redesigned into the plugin based model. So now, say for example, if you want to monitor exadatas, right? So all you have to do is just download the plugin for exadata, install it to the agent, and then you have full capability to monitor and manage your exadata systems from cloud control. So that was a huge difference, as well as the look and feel of the tool was completely redesigned, and it became so popular now with 13c version 4, which was released in January 2020. You have a lot more capability than you used to have in 12c. And those new feature, I will deep dive into each one of those, and we'll see how they are different and how we can benefit from them. So before we talk about the new features, let's see who uses OEM. I believe everyone uses OEM. I mean, DBA loves OEM. They use it for their day-to-day task, even heavily rely for the notification from OEM. And also the system admins, they use OEM to monitor the server and other IT components. And sometimes, or in some organization, even developer ask for the access to OEM performance pages, or generating the AWR report or ASH report. So pretty much everybody uses this tool, and definitely the organization who are heavily invested in Oracle are the most benefited from this tool. And even organization with limited Oracle focus can also utilize this tool to monitor their non-Oracle databases as well, non-Oracle databases or even non-Oracle targets using this tool. So pretty much everybody uses this tool. why everybody uses this tool, why organization choose this tool. So first of all, Oracle Enterprise Manager is Oracle product. So it has gone through a lot of development over the period of 20 years, and now this is most powerful and secure tool available, and it works pretty well with Oracle products, or even it works well with non-Oracle product as well. And it is really a one-stop shop for all your monitoring and management needs. So now you can monitor your on-prem targets, or even the cloud targets. So you can pretty much monitor everything using this tool. So this become like a centralized platform for your complete IT stack. And it, by default, as I mentioned earlier, it provides a lot of functionality, which is more than enough. But in case you want to create some customized metrics, you can do so, as well as like enabling those management packs, make it more rich in terms of the automating those features. So pretty much you have got everything you want, even for the Oracle or non-Oracle targets in your organization. All right, so this is the main meat of this presentation. This is where we will talk about those 7 exciting new features introduced in 13C, and we'll see how we will benefit it from using those. And first one is intelligent incident compression. We'll see how we can now avoid the unnecessary duplicate alerts or notification for the same underlying issue by using this intelligent incident compression. And the next feature I will talk about is Chef Job. Chef is getting popular with the cloud is getting popular, and now there's a need to actually roll out the changes quickly to all the servers in your environment. So that is where the Chef come into the picture, and I will talk about more how we can now run Chef Job using OEM job system. And then I will talk about my favorite and very exciting new feature, always on monitoring. This is where this is using this feature, we will now receive notification even if my OMS system is down. So I will deep dive into it. I'll spend more time on this feature because I find this feature is very, very useful. So we'll talk about more shortly. And following this, we have notification blackout. So we will see what is the difference between the traditional blackout or normal blackout we had in the previous releases, and how notification blackout add more accuracy when we talk about the availability percentage or the SLAs. And then I will touch base on the system broadcast feature, which is very simple feature, but it's very useful, especially when you would like to provide heads up to all the users who are connected to our Oracle Enterprise Manager before you actually bring down the system for any maintenance work. So we'll see how it works. And then definitely export and import incident rule set. That is another feature which save us a lot of time and efforts. And I will give you example like how we can utilize this feature and for what purpose we can utilize this feature. And lastly, I will talk about the metric extensions or metric uh, enhancement that have been introduced in 13C. All right, so let's get started. So first I will talk about the intelligent instant compression. So these days, everything is smart or getting smart. Your phone is smart, your watch is smart, your TV is smart. So why not actually the tool should be smart, or notification should be even smarter, right? So take an example of 12C. Okay, let's say we have 12C Oracle Enterprise Manager installed, and we are monitoring our environment using that tool. And we have like one of the server where we have uh, 20 odd databases running. Okay, and that server went down. So how many notification we have received from 12C? So we have received more than 20 alerts, basically one for each database, and then you have got a notification for server, agent, ASM if you're running, and listener, right? So it create a flood of alerts basically. And usually in most organization, we send those notification to the ticketing system to create the ticket, right? So you can imagine the situation where at the same time you are getting like 20, 30 P1s. So it really impose a lot of challenges, right? Your monitoring team get overwhelmed, your DBA get overwhelmed to figure it out, like which incident is really a real one or which one he should prioritize, right? But all those alerts are were created for the same underlying issue. The underlying issue is something with the server, right? Because the server went down, and because of that, your all the targets which were hosted on that server went down. So that was really inefficient way, or it was unnecessary getting those notification for the same underlying issue, right? But now the good news is in 13c, now you can actually group or consolidate those related event into single incident, and then you will just receive a notification for that single incident instead of receiving notification for all those 20 odd uh, events which we just talk about. So this is just a one example. There are a lot of criteria, a lot of option you have to group those related events from the same target, maybe, or maybe from the same target type. Or take the another example, say your development team is performing some loading in one database, and they end up filling up 10 different table spaces, right? So in 12c you will get notification for each and every table spaces, even though those table spaces alert for the same database. But in 13c, you can club those related alert from the same target, those table spaces alert from the same target, same database I meant to say, into one incident, and then you will just receive one notification. The notification will be pretty clear. It will say that those all those table spaces are running above the threshold, but it will just be one um, notification and ticket in case if you're sending those uh, notification to the ticketing system. So that is very efficient way of handling the related events, right? Because the issue is one, but we were just used to get unnecessary alerts. Similarly, you can actually group all the related metric collection error, right? And basically you can just all we have to do is just have to create this condition. So we are telling Oracle Enterprise Manager to group those related events and compress them by using this condition. So here if you can see, we are just creating an incident for all the related events, and we are compressing that events into incident. And here's the criteria we are defining here for that grouping or for that compression, right? So in this case I just use the target, and I'm just combining or grouping or compressing, you can say, the events from the target on the same host. So basically, if the host goes down, it will generate the availability events for each target hosted on that server, right? So it will generate even for one for each database down situation, a listener, ASM, agent, right? So all those events will be generated. And because of this condition, now all those related events from the same host are now grouped into one incident. And here you have a window. You can specify the time window, so during which all those related event will be clubbed into one incident. So say for example, in the case of server down, when the server went down, within 5 minutes you should see all those events get generated, right? So you can specify the window of 5 minutes if that makes sense in your environment, and then all those events generated in the 5 minutes from the same host will be clubbed into one incident. So that is very efficient way of actually handling the notification. And on the top of it, you are now saving some space in the repository, because now instead of creating incident per event, you are actually creating just a single incident for those related events. So it could save some space in the repository. And at the same time, now you are just receiving one notification instead of receiving those more than 20 notifications. So again, you are saving those notification in the repository. I mean, you are saving some space for those notification. And as I mentioned, like, you have a lot of criteria here using which you can group the related event. You can group the event from the same targets, like you want to group all the events trigger for the database target type, so that you can do, if that makes sense. And you can group them from the same ancestor type even, or maybe generic system. And other than the target, you can use category as well to group those related events into the single incident, and you can also utilize the event name as well. So this is really exciting feature, and it saves me a lot of time and efforts now. I have implemented in a lot of my customers, and it is working really good. So in fact, I used to deal like thousands of alerts when actually the SAN is down, and because of which my 5 6 clusters are down. So in that case, but now because of this feature, I can actually reduce that alerts to just one or maybe few, in case of multiple server down. So if you're not already using it, I would encourage you to start using this. This is very, very exciting features in 13c Cloud Control. Let's talk about the another job type introduced in 13c Cloud Control. It is chef job type. And with the popularity of cloud, and the configuration management become challenging, because now you have to manage a lot more servers on-prem cloud, and lot more server at the same time, right? And it is really doesn't make sense to perform those changes manually by logging into each server, right? So that is where this tools come into the picture. Chef is nothing but your configuration management, or your infrastructure management platform, using which actually you deploy your infrastructure as a code, similarly the way you used to deploy your application as a code. So this is very popular, and now you can create the chef job using Oracle Enterprise Manager, or you can run chef job using Oracle Enterprise Manager. And chef works based on the cookbook and recipes. Your cookbook can have one or many recipes, and your recipe is basically your code, or your task which you want to execute. So in 13c Cloud Control, you can now upload those chef cookbook and recipes to your OEM software library. So using that, you're just maintaining one copy, and from there you can just refer that cookbook and recipes and execute again number of targets by creating this chef job uh, in OEM. So, Chef, just to give you a little bit of background and the requirement for this job before you set it up in OEM. So, just let me give you some background about the Chef. And the Chef runs in three modes, or in three ways, I would say. Um, it can be software as a service when you're on cloud, or you can set up your private Chef server, which can then talk to the agents installed on each boxes, and that is how they push the deploy and communicate with each other. Or the third way of running Chef is you can have Chef run in solo mode, which is like without server. So you are installing Chef on each and every server, and you don't need a separate private server to communicate, and you don't need any agent to communicate. So why I told this three ways, because to run chef job from OEM, you need to have, you must have chef set up in the solo mode, and which makes sense because you already have a server installed, then you really don't need OEM to communicate with the agent, right? So you have chef solo mode, and then you can upload those cookbook to the software library, and just design the job and run it against the target of your interest. This is the simple job type, simple interface. Like any other job type in OEM, it will ask you a bunch of the parameters, and nothing but like 5 parameters here for the chef job type. And let me walk you through this one by one. So first one is chef solo path, which is nothing but path to chef binaries. And then you have the configuration file path. In case if you are using the default configuration file, you don't really have to specify anything here. It will just directly uses the default configuration file. But if you have some customization done in the configuration file, then you will just specify here, and that is how Oracle will pick up the configuration from there. And the third parameter is interesting, cookbook component. It says locally available recipes. So there are two ways. One, you can store the chef recipes local to the server where the agent is installed, or you can have uploaded into the software library. So the software library is the best practice to upload the cookbook to, because that way you have to just maintain one copy of the code or the cookbook, right? So once you upload it, you can see here it get populated in this drop down, and you can select from here. And in the next parameter, you can specify really if you want to run just one recipe out of those cookbook. So say for example, the cookbook was designed to install the development tool, and there are two recipes. One is to install the Tomcat, and another one maybe to install Java, right? But if you are just interested to install Java, right? So here you can specify the Java recipe. So the syntax would be cookbook name, which is nothing but your deploy tool, double colon two time, and then you have recipe name, like Java, install Java, right? So that way it will just install Java and doesn't touch or doesn't execute the another recipe which was there in the cookbook. And of course you have option to change the attributes using JSON format here. So this is pretty much it for the chef job support. It works same as like any other job works, but yeah, if you are the organization where you use the chef heavily, then definitely Oracle will Enterprise Manager would be uh, a huge help in case if you just want to set up the job for all your targets you manage in that environment. Okay, so let's talk about always on monitoring. This is my favorite topic. I mean, I could spend like maybe hours and hours talking about this, but because of the time restriction, we'll give you all the highlights about this tool, this feature, and how you can utilize this feature and have the monitoring always on. Before I do that, let's take an example again with the 12c Cloud Control. So in 12c Cloud Control, say for example, we are monitoring all our environment using 12c Cloud Control, and maybe my OMS went down, or maybe the repository went down, or maybe a whole system is down, and the whole enterprise system is down, right? So in that case, we completely blacked out. I mean, we will not receive alert from any of the production target or mission critical target which are set up in the OEM, unless and until like you have another cron job or maybe another tool. But you are losing all the monitoring when the OEM system is down, right? We did had an option to set up like multi OMS system along with the cluster or rack repository, right? But that is like a lot of efforts, and there's a lot of cost involved there, right? Because you need to have similar or same server setup along with the same memory, CPU, even the storage, etc. Similarly, when you set up the cluster repository database, so you need definitely another server, I mean different nodes of the cluster, right? So again, it's a lot of efforts and resources are required. But in 13c, Oracle introduced something called always on monitoring, and it is very lightweight software using which you can monitor your environment even if your cloud control is down or maybe OMS is down, right? So this is called always on monitoring, and this software you can either download from my Oracle support, or you could actually get it from the 13c binaries as well, because it comes under the sysmin directory as a EMS directory. So zip file is not more than 100 MB, because it's just a lightweight component. And then once you get that zip file, you just copy it to the server where you would like to set up this always on monitoring. Just extract it and just run the EMS CA configuration assistant. It will ask you a bunch of questions. The most important thing we need for that is nothing but another repository. So always on monitoring also uses the repository of its own. It's not really full-fledged repository, it's just a lightweight repository, and it gets sync with your main repository. And what all things will get synced? It's just a target and target property, downtime context, your notification related information, or your notification gateway. All those minimal detail is required for always on monitoring to work. By default it will get synchronized every 24 hours, but you could change that interval as you feel, or it's best fitted for your requirements and need. So how it works is basically, um, say for example, this is our 13C cloud control and my OMS is down. So in this diagram you see all my agents are now talking to the always on services. So this always on service has a lightweight repository which is already synced with my main repository. And now, because it has all those details, so now it will utilize those detail and process the events or incidents coming from agent, and it process that, and based on the notification setup we have, or downtime context setup, we will receive those notification in an email. All we have to do is uh, set up that always on service on some different server than the OMS or repository. And it doesn't take full-fledged server, you can have it on existing server. It is no cost option. First of all, only a license you need is for the repository, but you can always use your existing database to host the repository, because it is lightweight. It's not going to impact any of the functionality of the existing database. And you could have actually dedicated databases on the existing server, so that will not cost you anything. And the one important thing, because agent, how will agent come to know that it has to talk to always on service? So that is where we need to set this property. Basically we are setting the always on URL, so that when the OMS is down, agent will know that where it should now communicate to for any of the notification which got triggered. So this is very uh, important feature and very useful, especially when you would like to have the notification, when you would like to receive notification even if your enterprise manager is down. So, and it is very easy to set up, and it is no cost option. So if you're not already using it, I will encourage you to start using this. This is very a useful feature of 13C cloud control. Okay, now let's talk about the blackouts. So we'll see what are the differences with the normal blackout, and how we can now achieve more accuracy in availability metrics and the other SLA related calculation. So again, I will go back to my 12C cloud control example. And in until 12C cloud control, we just had a blackout. It's just a one type of blackout which we use for maintenance work or for outage. So there is no way really to distinguish between like which blackout duration which we should consider as a downtime, or which one is not. And in the traditional blackout, the other challenge, this was the first challenge, and the other thing was like, when you black out the agent, it doesn't monitor anything. It's just wait for blackout to get over, right? So it doesn't monitor anything, so which again introduce more inaccuracy in the availability percentage or SLA calculation. So in 13C now we of course still have traditional normal blackout, but now we have notification blackout as well. So notification blackout, it when you set up notification blackout, agent still monitors all the targets, still uploads the data. The only thing different is it will just suppress the notification, so that way you don't won't receive those unnecessary alerts when there is a downtime. And there are now two subtype of notification blackout. One is the maintenance notification blackout, and another one is notification only notification blackout, because that is for non-maintenance work. So now you can distinguish between these two type of blackouts. So what it means is, when there's a maintenance work, and you can now use the notification maintenance notification blackout. So the duration for which the target is under blackout will not be considered, or will be excluded from the availability calculation, as you can see here. right? Because it is not really downtime, it is really a maintenance plan maintenance window. So it is communicated to everybody, and that database will not be available. So it is not really downtime, it is not down because of some issue, but it was for the plan maintenance. So it doesn't make sense to consider that duration as a downtime. So that's the reason you have that option now. And similarly, if there's an outage, you can use another type of blackout called non-maintenance blackout. So that way, that period, that duration of the blackout which you set up for the non-maintenance window or notification only notification blackout will now be included as a downtime while calculating the availability percentage for the target, which makes sense. So meaning now we have more accurate availability percentage calculation, which we didn't had in previous releases. And organization who rely heavily on generating report out of OEM will now get more accurate information because of this two blackout type introduced. There's another interesting blackout type I wanted to bring up here. I haven't seen much detail of this, or it's not documented pretty well. So I thought maybe I should include it here. It's called retroactive blackout. So let me take a scenario, or let me give you an example. Say for example, I have maintenance window for one of the production database, and maintenance is for 4 hours. So I start working on that maintenance and I bring down the database, but I actually forgot to black out my target. So after 1 hour, I realized that I forgot it, and then I went ahead and scheduled the blackout. So what had happened is, for the first 1 hour, because I haven't blackout, so OEM thinks that that was the downtime, right? And it will add that as a downtime into my availability calculation. But in reality, it was not downtime, it was a planned maintenance window. But because I forgot to enable blackout in timely manner, that's the reason it got added into the outage. So in the previous releases we cannot do anything, but in 13c now we can go in the past, we can select that window, and then we can set up the blackout. So isn't that great? I mean, that will allow more accuracy into the availability percentage and SLA percentage calculation, right? So that is what we call retroactive blackout. Very simple. All you have to do is just select the targets, and here if you can see, like, include target downtime in the target availability metric. So in my example, I will uncheck it because I don't want that period to be considered as a downtime, because that was a planned maintenance window and I forgot it to enable the blackout in timely manner. So it is very simple now. You can go back and choose those date and time, and then you are pretty much done. And this will not affect the current status of the target, but it will just go in the past and set up the blackout, and will complete within 2 minutes. And after that, if you see the availability calculation or percentage, or if you generate the report, you will see 100% accuracy now, because you have get rid of that 1 hour of downtime which was accidentally included in the blackout, in the availability calculation. So this is very exciting. I mean, in case if you're like again heavily relying on the availability calculation from the repository, then definitely this is the way to go. The another very simple but very important feature is system broadcast. So you must have been into the situation where you were working on Unix server, or maybe even on the Windows server, and you suddenly got the pop-up from the system administrator saying that the system is going down in next 15 minutes for OS patching, or whatever the case may be, right? So that was a good way to communicate with all the users who are connected to the servers, right? And it will also give you a sort of heads up to wrap up your work and get out of the server, or logged out of the server, so that the server even go down cleanly. But we were unfortunately missing that feature in earlier releases, right? So as I mentioned earlier, right, OEM, everybody uses it. There's DBAs, other teams, system admins, developers. So it is really difficult to communicate with all of them. And to be honest, you don't know, I mean, who's connected to the system. So it was really difficult to communicate with all of them. But now you have that feature. You can actually push those message using system broadcast verb that is introduced in EMCLF from 13C onwards. And you can notify all the connected users about any maintenance work or any issue you are having with OEM. So they will get sort of heads up if somebody is like working and they are in middle of designing the report, or maybe they are designing the metric extension, so they can wrap up their work and log out from the system before it goes down. So that is kind of, that is sort of, savior for them who are in the middle of some important work. And the other thing you can do is you also have option to set up the preference whether would you like to receive those message. If you're not interested, you just can disable them. So this is a preference page for each and every individual administrator, and you can use or select the option based on your requirement. And you can see here, right, you can super administrator can send message of type confirmation, fatal error warning, even information, right? And the individual also can set the preference uh, if they want that message to disappear within 15 seconds or whatever the seconds they would like. So you can do also preference setting from the cloud control console itself. But to send out this message, we don't have that functionality available from the console, but we have to do it from the EMCLI. But that too, it's pretty easy. It's just one command. Like here's the example, right? So EMCLI send system broadcast message type. You can specify message type is whether it's info, confirmation, or error, fatal warning, etc. And then you can specify two options here. You can select a specific administrator, or you can send it to all the users who are connected to the system. Best practice is to have notify all the users. And then you can mention about your message, what you're doing with OEM, or when it's going down, so that whoever is connected or whoever working in OEM will come to know about any maintenance work, and they will accordingly save their work. So again, it's very simple, but it's very useful. So if you're not aware, now this option is there in 13C. Let's talk about the export and import functionality uh, for the incident rule sets. So I was handling a project wherein I was actually consolidating all my 12C cloud controls into 113C. So creating groups was pretty easy, not big deal. Even designing or exporting, importing templates was very easy because we have that option. And configuring targets is anyway it's manual, so that was not a big deal. But the main challenge was to redesign the notification rule, because in our case, like, we have more than 50 odd notification rules, and each one was so customized, and for the different teams and targets, and even a lot of custom metrics were there. So I found it to be very, very challenging to redesign those incident rule manually by looking at what we have in source, and then in 12C I mean to say, and then what we need in 13C. So it was very, very challenging. I wish I could have that option of export and import of incident rule set in 12C, but nevertheless, that option is now there in 13C. So now you, within just a click of button, you can just export all your incident rule sets, and you can save it to your XML file, and then just in the target side you have to browse that XML file and import it. And this doesn't just exports the incident rule, but it also exports the other details like users, the email addresses, and notification methods detail which you have in the rules. So I find it very, very useful, and it, instead of spending hours and hours, we can do now just within 5 minutes. The other advantage of this, because now you can actually export and import the incident rule set. So say for example, you might have dev instance of enterprise manager, maybe QA environment for enterprise manager, UAT, and then production, right? So if you are designing the rule sets in development, right, so now you can just export that new rule sets and import into the other environment, QA, UAT, and production, in one go pretty easily within just 5 minutes, instead of designing in development first and then QA then and then UAT and so on and so forth. So This functionality make it very easy. You could also utilize this functionality to make the backup of your notification rule. So in case if there's a disaster or if you lose OEM for any reasons, then you can always go back and import your incident rules from the XML export you have already taken. And also this is great way to standardize in case of 5 OEM like used to have. I can just have rules created in one OEM and then propagate into all 5 OEM using this export and import functionality. As you can see in this screenshot, it's very simple. Just select the rule, click on the export button. It will ask you for the location. Just specify the location and it will dump the data into XML file, which then you can use it while you are importing into the target site. So very simple and very useful. This is not something you would use on day-to-day basis, but I find to be a very useful, especially when you are migrating or consolidating, or if you have multiple instances of OEM. So very useful feature, guys. Just be aware that it is there from the 13C. All right, lastly, let's talk about the metric enhancements or metric extension. So in previous release also, even in grid control, we used to have user defined metrics using which we used to design custom metric if the default out of box metric doesn't serve the purpose. But user defined metrics was had very limited functionality, and it was just available for some known types like database and host. But starting in 12c, we have metric extension, of course, and that got extended in 13c. That is where we have now full-fledged metric extension, using which we can create metric extension for the lot of different target types, like even Exadata. Now you can create metric extension for even Siebel component, Oracle Business Intelligence component, even Fusion application. So you have a lot many more targets you can now create metric extension on. And on the top of it, now you have a lot of more advanced properties designed for this metric extension, because now the target types are more and the scope have been extended, right? So now you can actually utilize the advanced property to define the scope of the metric extension, by which I mean whether the metric extension you are developing, is it for the rack database or single instance or even container database or non-container database, or whether you're designing it for even data guard. So you can specify those scope now so that the related metric extension you design will be available for only those target types. And in previous releases, when we wanted to design like metrics, uh, we didn't have much option to perform like arithmetic operations on multiple columns if we are really designing a metric which depends on or drives the value from the combination of columns. But now you have that advantage. Now you can create the complex metric extension. You can introduce more and more compute expression, and you can create that metric extension and from the different columns using any of the arithmetic operation, and that way you have much more functionality now, and which help you to create more complex metric extension. You can even change the comparison operator now for your regular metric. Earlier releases, it was just fixed operator, comparison operator, which we used to use. We didn't have any option to change it, but now in case usually that default operator is more than enough, but sometimes if you want to customize or whatever make more sense, you can actually change that comparison operator as well. So this is a great way. I mean, like we discussed about the uh, uh, out of box metrics, right? There are a lot of out of box metrics that comes with Oracle Enterprise Manager by default, and with each releases, Oracle keep on adding more and more metrics. But yeah, there are cases or there are requirements for which you might have to utilize the custom setup of metrics. So this is where you can use this metric extensions and design your own metric. And it's very simple process to design. As you can see on this, it's pretty similar to what we have in 12c. First, you design the metric extension using whatever OS scripts or SQL, PL or whatever language you use, and you design it and you save it as a deployment draft. You test out then deployment draft against the target type for which you design, and if you see the expected result, then you are ready to go, or if you don't, then you make those changes and retest it, and then if you're getting expected result, then just publish it. So when you publish it, what will happen is that metric extension will be available for all the target type, all the targets of the target type. And that way you can utilize the newly created metric extension even in the monitoring template. So that is very good way of, extending the functionality of uh, Oracle Enterprise Manager to fulfill the requirement and needs of your organization. So with this announcement, we conclude this session. And again, a reminder, please do take few moments and fill out the survey by end of today. We will be announcing the winner who could win a pair of Tiki Touch speakers, or maybe a grand prize winner who could win $500 by tomorrow. So please do fill this survey by end of today. And just to make you aware that will also be making donation to First Book. So in a way, you are also helping child who's in need. So thank you so much for your time today. And I will open this forum now for any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you, Rakesh. First question is, can we get this PowerPoint? Do you have this available?
Sure, we can make it available.
On your website or?
On the website, or maybe Jenna, if you
Yeah,
want
we'll post this up on our website under our resources section, and then we can also send out an email to the group here for those of you who have opted in. But yeah, it'll be available probably early next week.
Okay, great. Next question is, when using Chef and OEM, what are password credentials set up to all remote servers, as remote servers Oracle passwords are auto-rotated every 24 hours in my company's standard?
Yeah, so you could do one thing. I mean, you could actually set up the passwordless, or you could when you're setting up the credential in Oracle Enterprise Manager, you could actually utilize the SSH keys, which is fixed, right? Even if your password changes, it is fixed. So that way, you utilize those in the preferred credential, and when you create the chef job, you can utilize those preferred credential, which are based on the key rather than the password. So even if your password gets rotated, you still be able to utilize those credential without any issues.
Okay. Let's see. Are there any workarounds for the impending end of Flash support besides upgrading to 13.3?
Oh, sorry, what is the question again?
Are there any workarounds for the impending end of Flash support besides upgrading to 13.3?
Unfortunately, no. I mean, that is the only way, and a lot of my customers already started doing that. So yeah, if you're not planned, I mean, I would encourage you to plan it ahead of the time, so that by end of December or after that, you should not face any issue when you start using the OEM. So unfortunately, there are
Okay.
no workaround.
Sorry about that. This question has to do with the answer you gave about passwords and security. SSH key credential is prohibited in my company. What is the solution?
Uh, in that case, I mean, if you are sometimes, so when you are changing the password or it's getting rotated, right? Maybe some tool is rotating or some manual person is rotating, right? So on the top of it, you could design the custom script, right? So when you rotate the password, you use that password to update the credential in OEM using EMCLI command line, right? So that way, whenever you are actually changing the server passwords, you're updating the credential as well. So they are kind of in sync. that is another option I can think of. It's a custom option, but yeah, you could do something that.
Okay. Is it supported to run OEM 12 on an Oracle 19C database installation?
I am not sure on that, but usually the case is like, whatever database releases were prior to the 12C. I mean, usually the same version is supported. A higher version, I know for 13C, 19C supported, but for 12C, I think 12C is the main supported version. But I can check out on 19C and let you know on that.
Okay, he actually added a little bit more to that. He said, I mean to connect it with Oracle 19C databases as satellite systems.
Question is like for the repository database or in general? Can you just repeat one more time, please?
Sure. I mean to connect it with Oracle 19C databases as satellite systems.
As a satellite system. I am not sure about that. I can double check on that and send you my answer in an email.
Okay. I don't think we asked this one. How stable is the 13C agent compared to prior versions? Does it restart after server reboot or other network interruptions?
Oh, it's pretty stable. I mean, I've been using for more than a year, and all my big customers, like organization, I've never seen, any major issue. Just one thing, like we just tweak the Java heap memory so that because we have many targets to monitor, and that that was the only error I encountered initially. But after we resize it appropriately, I have never seen any encounter, and the restart and everything is pretty smooth after the server reboot. So I haven't seen any challenges with 13C agent.
Okay. Is it not possible to set a notification only blackout from EMCTL?
EMCTL basically in traditional blackout type, when we use EMCTL, it basically why we use EMCTL, because it was more on the uh, uh, local to the server, right? Blackout was local to the server, right? When we use EMCTL, it actually adds the entry into blackout.xml file, and that is how agent knows that it doesn't have to monitor the notifications. This doesn't have to monitor the targets. But in case of a notification blackout, we are not going to really set up any or add any entry into the blackouts.xml file. So you can use EMCLI, you can still do it command line, and you can use from the console, but there is no much role using EMCTL of the agent, because agent will be performing same it is without blackout, because the notification blackout is more for suppressing the notification rather than the disabling the monitoring of the targets.
Okay. When OMS crashed, how to make sure there will not be notification flood before OMS is started?
When OMS crashed, there should, how to make sure there is not the flood of the notification, right? So are we just talking about OMS, or are we combining it with the always on monitoring? So I'll take both the scenarios. So if we are just talking about the OMS, right? So there are ways. If you don't want to receive the flood, if it is crashed and you don't have any access, and once it comes up, you can right away disable or suspend the notification. So that way, even though it is processing the data from the agents, but it will not send out the notification. You can do that using the console as well as the EMCLI. And while in case of always on monitoring, like if your system is crashed and then you have to manually enable the notification, so the notification will route from the always on monitoring instance. And when the OMS is back, you have to disable the monitoring from the always on instance, so that we will not receive duplicate alerts. So that is how we can do it. And all the notifications are basically, kind of related. So basically there's a job, right, which keeps on monitoring your queue, and that is how it sends the notification from OEM. So another way, I mean, if for some reason you are unable to suspend the notification, or maybe it's not accessible, or might be some issue, right? So if you just disable the job a parameter at the database level, then you're pretty much disabling everything. So that way, that's another way you can disable the notification.
Okay, and we have time for one more question. Is it possible to install both OEM 12C and 13C on one server?
Right. So basically OEM is a combination of your WebLogic server, right? Admin server, node manager, agent, right? So it's combination of all these services. And all these services use specific ports, right? Agent has some ports assigned to it, OMS port assigned to it, console even. So there are a lot of ports involved. Even when you install it, you will get the summary of those ports. So as long as you are not conflicting with those ports, it should not be any issue to have, both the version running. But I don't see any advantage of doing that. But you might be have a case of migration from one to another, and you want to avoid the downtime, etc. That will be there. But yeah, I mean, as long as you're using different ports, there should not be an issue.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Rakesh and Jenna. We really enjoyed this presentation, and those were some great questions.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your time today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.